Dear friend, he lives right up in yeah, that's how I got. Yeah, yeah, Chris. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everybody. If you can start making your way to the hype pit, is what I like to call it, like they do on the MTV Awards. We're getting ready to start our program. Good morning. My name is Christopher Goins, and I am the 19th president of Girard College. And I'm feeling something in my spirit that we should just start this thing off and sing a little bit of We Shall Overcome. Can we do that? All right, I'm gonna lead us. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. I hear you, Pastor Waller. Oh, deep in our hearts, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Thank you all. Here at Girard College, our mission is to advance equity and opportunity for every student, supporting them with the resources they need to succeed, thrive, and find purpose in their lives. And we are proud to be celebrating our 175th anniversary in 2023. And today we commemorate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. through service and awareness around the tragic impact that gun violence is having on our city and our nation. And let us not forget that Dr. King himself was a victim of gun violence too. Furthermore, we cannot forget the impact his violent death had on his wife, Coretta Scott King, and his family. And when we consider the massive impact that gun violence is having on our communities, it is natural for us to focus on the actual victim who was injured or the person that lost their lives to a violent act. However, I stand here today to remind all of us that the victims of gun violence are not all dead. The survivors are victims as well. The mothers, the fathers, the children, the aunts, the uncles, and other family members are also victims of gun violence. And we cannot forget about them today. Thus, we shall overcome. I believe that moments of service like today are important because we are bringing awareness to gun violence and prevention and mitigation efforts. However, it is painful to know that our reality has made it so that we are packing anti-violence kits today as a community service activity, and those will be distributed to our most vulnerable neighborhoods. Thus, this also tells me that we are acknowledging that it is a stark reality that the violence will not end today. And I would like for us to pause, and I urge this entire coalition of Philadelphians assembled here today to reconsider how we are framing this day of service in our consciousness. I offer you to consider the humanity of gun violence, and we shall overcome. If we consider the humanity of the perpetrators of gun violence, we cannot ignore the fact that 21,570 murders in the United States in 2021, 79% of them were committed by men. And gun violence victims are also predominantly male, accounting for 85% of fatalities and 87% of injuries. I also should note that overwhelmingly perpetrators of gun violence do not suffer from mental health challenges. This tells us that the perpetrators of gun violence are capable of reasoning, and it should push us to consider how and what we are teaching our young people today. Remember, we shall overcome. Studies have shown that if a Black student has at least one Black teacher by the time they are in 4th grade, their likelihood of graduating from high school increases by 13%, and their likelihood of attending college increases by 32%. This tells me as a lifelong educator and activist that a focus on education reform is an anti-violence strategy, and we cannot ignore that. It is critical that we consider and we continue to discover ways to recruit, retain, and retire more Black and male educators of color to combat our societal challenges. Studies have also shown that children who cannot read at 4th grade, their likelihood of graduating on time lessens considerably, which is a startling statistic, and it shows the weight of early education and what it impacts on our children's future. And taking all of this into consideration, what if we use this 4th grade reading benchmark as a proof point to understand that prevention of violence occurs along a continuum, that it begins in early childhood education, that we should help parents, schools, and communities to raise emotionally healthy children, and increase our efforts to support students and support others that are troubled and possibly threatening of violence. I want to thank Todd Bernstein and Global Citizen here at Girard College. We are committed to continuing this partner as a King Day of Service. However, please do not let the legacy of Dr. King and Coretta Scott King be diminished today without fully understanding the humanity of all of those impacted by gun violence. And thus I close with my favorite quote of Dr. King. When we commit to a career of humanity, commit ourselves to the noble struggle for equal rights, we will make a greater person of ourselves, a greater nation for our country, and a final world to live in. Thank you, Philadelphia, and I will now turn it over to Mr. Todd Bernstein.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to the 28th Annual Greater Philadelphia King Day of Service. Thank you to Chris Goins and Girard College, this incredible institution that more and more people really need to know about. We are here for our 14th year. We're here because of the incredible civil rights history of this great place. It's something that should never get lost on us, and we'll hear more about that. Thank you to our sponsors who are behind me, our co-chairs, to the elected officials who are here, and a special thanks to my staff colleagues. Campbell Bird is around here someplace. He's incredible. He does great work. Let's give him a round of applause. Our overarching theme today is gun violence and gun violence prevention. And as Chris said, it should not be lost on us that Dr. King was a victim of gun violence himself back in 1968. 55 years later, Here in the city of Philadelphia, we are dealing with a crisis, a loss of precious lives, 500 lost last year, many to gun violence. Many like my dear friend Ken July's son, Zachariah. I'm not sure if Ken is here yet, but you'll be hearing from Kent. His beloved son, Zachariah, was killed last July 2nd. He is just one of many tragic stories in this city. But this, let's be clear, this is not just a government problem. This is not just a law enforcement problem. It is a problem where we have to harness all of the available resources we have in our society. And as in a way that Dr. King would say, a fierce urgency of now is required. We are really delighted to be partnering with two great institutions, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and Temple University Hospital. We are focusing on, and you'll see as we begin right after, assembling gun safety kits with CHOP that will be distributed into the community, and also with Temple Hospital and their Fighting Chance program, kits that will literally give victims, potential gunshot victims, a fighting chance at the scene where people can apply tourniquets with bandages and chest seal and other things. These are being distributed through the Philadelphia school system to other organizations. And it's not something that any one sector can do. We all have to be involved. The Black Doctors Consortium, a great partner of ours since the beginning of COVID, is providing free vaccinations and flu shots and testing in the Welcome Center where you entered the campus. We have a great CPR training from the Philadelphia Fire Department, the City of Philadelphia's Health Department's Medical Reserve Corps, and I think Commissioner Hess may be here, training volunteers to assist in vaccination clinics and health emergencies. We have a jobs fair. People can go to MLKDayofService.org, 32 local employers providing real jobs for people in the community. It is virtual this year. Our Read by Fourth program will be training reading captains who provide resources in the most underserved communities to allow children to be able to read independently by grade 3. And there's also a read aloud with books about Dr. King that young people will be reading. And at noon, I encourage everyone to head over to the elementary school, which is to my left, for a rally for peace and justice. This will be involved with the leadership of the Cecil B. Moore Philadelphia Freedom Fighters, who were here on the front lines fighting for desegregation when Dr. King came to the campus in 1965. They will be giving presentations on the history of the civil rights movement, their involvement with Cecil B. Moore, and the Black clergy of Philadelphia and vicinities 57 Blocks program will be holding presentations and breakout sessions and discussions, not just to talk about the problem of gun violence, but to come up with common sense solutions. And there will be hundreds of other projects throughout the region, thousands of participants. And then at 3 o'clock, the Philadelphia Orchestra's 33rd annual King Tribute Concert will take place in the chapel. This King Day of Service is not just a birthday celebration. It's an opportunity to make Dr. King's legacy of social justice our mission too. And not just today, not just on King Day, but every day of the year. And with that, I would like to introduce our mayor, Jim Kenney.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Happy Dr. Martin Luther King Day. When I got ready to go to high school, I wanted to go to high school with all my friends. And my parents said, no, you're going to go down the street here to St. Joe's Prep. You're going to try it for a year. And if you don't like it, then you can go somewhere else. And when I went there, the major tenet of what they taught was that you'll never know really what happiness is unless you're in service to others. You need to be in service to others to really get the understanding of what true happiness is. You can acquire things, you can acquire money and status and houses and cars, but you'll never really be happy unless you're in service to others. When I think about the sacrifice that Dr. King made, knowing in the speech the night before he was assassinated, when he said, "I may not get there with you," he knew something bad was coming, but he still faced it anyway. He still put his face into the wind and moved forward and wound up losing his life. I can't imagine a greater sacrifice than laying down your life for another, almost as Jesus did. So when we have a propensity to say something nasty, say something kind. When we want to complain, compliment. Do our best to make that ripple effect of kindness go through our entire community, and we will get through all of this together. The tide will turn. I just want to say one other story that I've heard years ago, and I think it's true, and I hope it's true, is that when Cecil B. Moore, and he should not be forgotten because this place would be a different place without Cecil B. Moore. They were protesting around the college, and a police commissioner at the time, which I won't say who it was, wanted the fire, you made me think of this, wanted the fire department to turn on the hoses. And they said, no, fire department ain't turning no hoses on any citizens of the city. We put out fires, we don't put out people. And with that decision, I think that what changed here is the change that we all benefited from, not just people of color, but white people, Asian people, all people benefited when other people are more free and have more rights, and their rights are respected. So let's just take into our hearts the thought of Dr. King, his legacy, and let's do something kind and decent for somebody today. It'll come back to you 100-fold. God bless.
All right, thank you, Mayor. As our elected officials arrive, I want to bring up and say hello to my children here, Alexa and Ella, who have been here for every King Day of service since they've been alive. Thank you, girls. I want to introduce a great U.S. Senator who's been so good to us. And our thoughts are with you for a number of reasons. And Bob Casey, please welcome Bob Casey.
Good morning, everyone. I want to start by thanking Girard College for having us back here. Mr. President, I don't know where Mr. President is. Mr. President, thank you again for having us back here. Thank you to all of you for the great work you do in volunteering, not only on this day, but on so many other days, to take on tough challenges like reducing gun violence. I'm grateful to be with you, and also grateful to be back with Todd, who's led this operation to come together every year, the work that he's done in Global Citizen for so many years. Let's give them a round of applause for their leadership. But Todd, as you know, I'm joined today by a new colleague, the new United States Senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman. So I'm just the preliminary speaker here, but I'm grateful to be joined by Senator Fetterman, Mayor Kenney, and so many distinguished elected officials. Let me be very brief. You all know the story of Dr. King. You know how he lived and you know how he died. But more important than how he died is what he taught all of us. And he taught us a lot about change. He talked about change not coming easily, change not coming inevitably. In fact, he said one time, change doesn't come on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through continuous struggle. And I think about that, we're thinking about gun violence. All the work that the city has done, all the work that the people of Philadelphia have done, some progress made at the federal level with the Safer Communities Act, but so much more to do. The United States Congress and the federal government has to do a lot more to help the people of Philadelphia reduce gun violence. So we have more work to do. So we're going to continue to be part of that continuous struggle. But I want to thank you for the work you do every day of the week to advance the cause of justice. Let that be our cause again today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. And Bob mentioned, I'd like to introduce, please give a warm welcome to Senator John Fetterman.
Hi, thank you. It's so wonderful to be here. 4 years ago, I was here, your brand new Lieutenant Governor, to be part of this amazing celebration. And it's such an honor to be back here again to celebrate Dr. King's legacy. Dr. King dedicated his whole life for fighting for justice and equality, and he has showed how important public service is. And today, MLK Day, we celebrate that legacy to continuing to give back to all these communities. For me, that commitment to public service is about representing the great people of Pennsylvania and Washington, D.C. I first ran as a mayor of Braddock almost 20 years ago because I wanted to be what I could benefit and strengthen my community, a forgotten community in Western Pennsylvania. As mayor, I was elected to fight against gun violence and invest in the people of our community. And then I continued as your lieutenant governor to fight for the same kinds of important issues, and also especially fighting for second chances for people all across Pennsylvania. You know, I wanted to get back and make our community and our Commonwealth special. And in Dr. King's memory, we must continue in that legacy. And that means giving and finding opportunities that we always give back to our communities. And that means standing up against injustice and standing up for equality, just like Dr. King did. And I want to be back here. Thank you 4 years later as your United States Senator, to spend my career in Washington, D.C., to be back fighting for these same kinds of commitment. Thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, this is such a cavernous room that noise carries very easily. If I can ask you just to put your attention towards here and not carry on the small conversations, if you would. I'd also like to introduce now our congressman for this district, Dwight Evans.
Good morning. You know, all of us are in a beloved community. That's what Dr. King used to talk about. And here in Philadelphia, and particularly at this location, it is very appropriate that we stand here and that we all help make up this community together to address the problems that we have. We must. To deal with violence and poverty, it is us collectively. It's the government and it's the people. It's all of you making a difference. So I'm happy to be a part of this effort to show by us working together, we can make a difference in our communities. You know, Dr. King talked about the significance of all of us playing a role and that we could play a role. We should not take that for granted. We should all recognize that we have something to do. Yes, we in Washington, as you see, both of our United States senators Understand the significance in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to have 2 Democratic senators. And they join with my colleagues, local elected officials, and community groups, and coming together to do something about this beloved community. So I would say to you, happy Martin Luther King Day.
Is Dr. Wadlington here yet? Yes, please welcome our new school superintendent for the school district of Philadelphia, Tony Wadlington.
Good morning. Happy Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I'm excited to be here. I won't say the brand new superintendent because I've been here at least 6 months, but I'm excited as a student of history to have learned about the role of Philadelphia in the civil rights movement. President Goins, I'm honored to be here today and certainly want to say very proud good morning to Senator Casey, Senator Fetterman, Mayor Kinney, Representative Kenyatta, and all of the leaders on the stage, as well as all of these fine individuals here this morning. I am just thrilled to see this huge turnout. I thought we had pretty good Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebrations in the South, but it can't hold a candle to what's happening here in Philadelphia. So congratulations to you. Very quickly, I just want to share as superintendent my favorite Dr. King quote. It is, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice." As we fight this crippling problem of gun violence in our very fine city, the school district is committed to being partners with the city and all of you. And we want to do our part in 3 big areas. And we're asking for your full support. Number 1, we want to get the dropout rate to go down. Number 2, we want the 4-year graduation rate, which is now 70%, to go up. And then we want to work together as that beloved community that Dr. King talked about and Congressman Evans just referenced, to improve literacy and math skills. We absolutely can and will do this work together. And I thank you in advance for your partnership. Good morning and thank you.
I also want to mention that voter education and voter registration are taking place throughout the city. Thanks to the League of Women Voters, the Committee of 70, Community College of Philadelphia, City Commissioner Sabir's office. And that is obviously a major struggle that King fought around the time of the passing of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Please welcome the CEO and president of one of the greatest organizations, nonprofits in the city of Philadelphia, and that is the United Way of Greater Philadelphia and Southern New Jersey, Bill Golderer.
Good morning, everybody. I have to make a confession. I've been paying too close attention to the news, because when you turn on the news, you come to grips with the size and scope and scale of the challenges our communities face. Today we're talking about gun violence. We could equally talk about the 402,000 Philadelphians who have some kind of criminal record that are looking for another chance to grow their income and secure life for their families. There's other challenges facing us. We talked about schooling and staying encouraged. And I'll be honest, when I woke up a couple days ago, I was just feeling low and discouraged. But then I thought about what today would be, that we would be here together with all these incredible leaders who are dedicated to be inspired by Dr. King's legacy. And I know that the challenges we face are not greater than our ability to solve them, face them, address them, and overcome them. 60 years ago, this August, Dr. King was sitting in a Birmingham jail. he must have been discouraged. He must have felt afflicted by being wrongly incarcerated and then being summoned to inspire folks to dig deeper, to try harder, to insist on a different world. And the thing that he said for me that helped me the most was it's about how we use our time. He believes that those who are set about doing evil and causing trouble in this world are very efficient with their use of time. In other words, the devil is good at his job. What we need to be committed to is that every day, every waking hour that we can be of service to our neighbors, to extend love and reconciliation rather than retaliation, and find a way to help each other thrive. That will be our legacy. And it starts today and it starts now. Thank you for being here today. And thanks for all that you're going to do tomorrow. Thank you.
We couldn't do this without great sponsors, great corporate citizens, and one of those is Independence Blue Cross and the president of the Independence Blue Cross Foundation, Lorena Marshall Blake.
Good morning, beloved community. Good morning. There you go. On behalf of Greg Devens, our president and CEO, and all of my Independence Blue Cross colleagues, it is a privilege and honor to be able to support the Greater Philadelphia Martin Luther King Day of Service. This is the day that the nation celebrates, and we here in Philly are celebrating service to others. In the spirit of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but here in Philadelphia, of course, it's not the only day we perform service because we do service every day. As Miriam Wright Edelman says, service is the rent we pay for being. So if you're breathing, then guess what? You need to be serving. It is the very purpose of life and not something we do in our spare time. I don't know about you, but I love our Philadelphia community because we take that idea to heart. And I see and honor the work you all do every day of the year. Today, we celebrate Dr. King's life. Yes, he was a man of service. He was a man of faith. He changed the world with the power of his commitment and his love. And guess what? You can too. He is one of the most important lives ever lived, but we cannot glide over the fact of the man's death. He died because a murderer took up a gun against him. And today, more than a century later, our citizens continue to die from gunfire, especially young people of color, those people whom Dr. King loved and fought for the most. So again, I thank Global Citizens. I thank all of you for being here today and the leaders of Greater Philadelphia for making the fight, because that's what it is. We are in a fight against gun violence, a focus of today's remembrance. We must act as a community to protect not just ourselves, but everyone, and turn the tide on this public health crisis. I'm proud to note again that Independence Blue Cross, along with others, is part of the Coalition to Save Lives. The coalition is bringing together public, private, and philanthropic resources to help reduce and eliminate the toll of gun violence. And it's been about collaboration. Again, I almost feel, I know we're still in this pandemic, but we need to join hands and join hearts and collaborate together as community in engagement. We can and will make a difference. So let us keep in mind Dr. King's belief in nonviolence and a stronger, more equitable society. And as we celebrate his legacy today, let us get moving, let us get marching, let us get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorena. Our program partner at Global Citizen is the Urban Affairs Coalition. Please welcome their president, Arun Prabhakaran.
Good morning, everyone. And I want to thank you all for being here. It is an honor to be with all of you today, celebrating and commemorating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King his values, his principle, and really the dream that he had for all of us. I want to thank our mayor, our senators, congressmen, our DA, and the rest of the elected officials here today. And I want to say something because UAC, the Urban Affairs Coalition, has been a very integral part of how we work in our community. Since the assassination of Dr. King, we were formed out of that work to try to make sure his vision stayed in Philadelphia, stayed as a mission for all of us. And here we are today doing that work. I know that we all are extremely frustrated with the violence that we're seeing, and it's hitting young people, it's hitting adults, it's hitting families, it's hitting everyone all over our community. And we're very proud to be a part of the work to reduce gun violence. We partner with the city around the grants programs that are funding groups throughout every single district. So we know that that work, community work, work that you do, work that we do, is all building towards resolving some part of this crisis. However, I would be remiss, I don't know if you know me, but I came up through the social movement. I learned my way through the kind of things that Dr. King he encouraged us to do, organizing and community work. And I know that I'm holding up this sign because I know one thing is our voice and our vote are going to make a difference. So when we look at an election that's coming up here in the city of Philadelphia, I want you to think about our mayor. See, this mayor has affected a generation of people, and we need another mayor who will do the same, who's going to do the work to make sure that we're safer and better moving forward. So I'm going to do something that maybe some of you are familiar with. How many of you have chanted at a protest? All right. So over here, our voice. Over here, our vote. Okay. Our voice. Come on, people. Our voice. Our vote. Our voice. Our vote. Our voice. Our vote. Now, come on. Our voice. Our vote. All right. That voice is going to change how we deal with gun violence. It's going to change poverty in Philadelphia. It's going to change how we get our education in the city and all of the matters that are most important to us. So I want to make sure that you don't check out this season. Be an engaged, be a global citizen, be a citizen in this city. Make sure you're paying attention to who's giving you their message about who's going to be the best person to run our city moving forward. And that way, when you use your voice and your vote, you'll be able to say, I did the thing that we all fought for over 60 years ago. I used my voice, I used my vote, and I want to thank you all for being here in a day of service. Thank you.
Our voice, our vote, our district attorney, Larry Krasner.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? All right, let's do it one more time. Our voice, our vote. Speaking of votes, and speaking of all of you who got out there and made sure that the people you wanted in office were in office, let me remind you something about people in office. The truth is that while we all embrace and celebrate Dr. King right now, and he is on a postage stamp and he has a holiday and there are streets all over the country named after him, his face was on a mug shot in his time. This is a man who was not embraced by law enforcement. In fact, the head of the FBI tried to destroy him every way that he could. This is a man who was not embraced by most leaders. Before he came to a city, he was being torn up and called a troublemaker, and they did not use the word good when they said troublemaker at that time. We need to remember who Dr. King was. He was with you. He was with the people with giant beating hearts who are not famous and who are not powerful and who push every day for the kind of real change that needs to happen. And as you know, when real change needs to happen, that is when you angry up the devil. When the heat is turned up, somebody stirred up the devil. So I'm going to ask you to do a wonderful thing. And it is the thing that Dr. King asked us all to do, which is you keep holding your government accountable. When your government doesn't want to say the NRA is the most dangerous organization in the United States, well, you remind them that the NRA is the most dangerous organization in the United States. When your government doesn't want to say we're going to hold big opioids accountable, well, you say, oh, yes, we are. We're going to hold big opioids accountable. And when your government doesn't want to say we need to double and triple our investment in education, we need to double and triple our investment in prevention, we need to double and triple our investment in modern enforcement. When your government doesn't want to say that, then you tell them until they finally hear you. And that is how we will get somewhere. Finally, just let me tell you what somewhere looks like. There's a country where there are 1/10 the number of people in jail we got, and the level of homicide is 1/10. Would you like to live there? Well, I would too. That country is modern Germany, one of the most violent and racist countries historically in the history of the world. They got 1/10 the number of people in jail and 1/10 the level of homicide. How about this one? There is a country in the world where they will have 1 fatal shooting this year and 12 total shootings. That's what we have in Philadelphia every day. That is a country with 50% of the United States population. That's Japan. These are both countries with racist, violent histories. They're both countries with a lot in common with us, and they're doing a whole lot better. And part of the reason is that their people told their government how it was going to be. So I want to thank you for everything that you do every day. I wish we were down there looking up at you on stage, but because you are the ones who get it done. And I want to encourage you in the history and the legacy of Dr. King. Don't wait for government to do it for you. You make government do it for you. Thank you very much. Before our last speaker, I just want to acknowledge some elected officials who are here. State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, Councilman David O, City Commissioner Bluestein. Not sure if are there any other elected officials? We saved this speaker for last, as we always do. During the civil rights movement in the 1960s, when this school was very limited in who it accepted, who were fatherless white boys, there was a group of people on the front lines here called the Cecil B. Moore Philadelphia Freedom Fighters. They were very young at the time. They're not quite as young as they were, but they all have a fierce fighting spirit. And one of those people is their president, Karen Asper Jordan.
I'm back and we're here. I just want to say thank you for everybody coming out. We're here because of Cecil B. Moore. There would be no celebrations at Girard College had Dr. King not spoken here. He was given permission to speak here. And 7 months and 17 days, people marched around this college. The case was won in court, but because of the demonstrations, the eyes of the world were kept on the hypocrisy of the city, the state, and the federal government to keep Black children out of this school. We lived around the corner. We knew this school was for poor white male orphans. Well, we didn't think any more about it. When we found out our taxes were going here and it was against the law, when Cecil B. Moore made the call as president of the NAACP, it was a call to action for all of us. Now, I want to say something to you young people out here. If you look at TV, you think you're the worst people in the world. And it's a darn shame that all of our children are relegated to nothing. We're here to save your lives. And the people that claim and say they want to help, you better get young people on every board and in every meeting, and especially children that are getting in trouble, because that's where your solution is going to be. Those of us that are older, we have a different way of life than young people. We weren't faced with what you kids are faced with today. The vast majority of children here in America and in Philadelphia are law-abiding children doing regular, normal things that children do. And to have the newspapers and the TV constantly put the negative things that are going on in our city every day, every newscast, every newspaper. You do that, you need to put 3 or 4 different things that the kids are doing in this country, because our children internalize that negativism and they start to believe it. And it's up to all of us, all hands on deck. It's something for everybody to do. Everybody can't be on the front line. We know that. But somebody can give up money. Somebody can give up time. Somebody can mentor a young person. And as I say, you get these children on these boards. And don't forget the children that are doing wrong. Children were not born bad and doing bad things. A lot of things they've learned, a lot of things we've done to them. We have to do better. And it's something for everybody to do. And our children have to learn their history, starting from elementary, starting at home and elementary school on up. They have to know there's somebody and that they came from something and they're gonna be something. We are all somebody. I want to thank you for coming. And like I said, Cecil B. Moore, we followed him. He was a Montford Point Marine, and they were the Marines that desegregated the Marine Corps. And these men had to build their own barracks, and it was swamp infested waters. This is where this man came from. He became president of NAACP. He made change. And because of him, we're here at Girard College, and we will never forget that. I want to thank you, young people. We loved you before we knew you. That's why we did what we did.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Thank you for being here. And thank you for making this more than just one day of celebration, but a lifetime of citizen action and social justice. Thank you. Thank you. Get everyone over here.